What if I told you that one of the greatest movies ever made was actually a massive commercial disaster that nearly ended careers and destroyed dreams? The Shawshank Redemption sits at the top of IMDb's greatest films list, beloved by millions worldwide and consistently ranked as the most inspiring movie ever created. Yet, when it first hit theaters in September 1994, it was such a colossal flop that it barely scraped back its production budget while competing against entertainment juggernauts. This beloved masterpiece hides secrets so shocking that even die-hard fans have never heard most of them. From near-catastrophic fires that almost destroyed the entire production to A-list actors who walked away from iconic roles, the real story behind Shawshank will completely change how you see this cinematic legend. We're about to expose 24 mind-blowing secrets that reveal just how close this masterpiece came to never existing at all. The numbers don't lie, and they're absolutely brutal. Despite earning critical acclaim and what would become legendary status, The Shawshank Redemption earned a pathetic $16 million during its initial theatrical run. For a film that cost $25 million to produce, this was nothing short of catastrophic. Studio executives watched in horror as their investment crumbled, competing against box office titans like Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction. The film that would eventually top every greatest movies list was getting demolished by audiences who simply weren't showing up. But here's where the story gets absolutely wild. The disaster at the box office wasn't the end, it was just the beginning of one of Hollywood's most incredible comeback stories. Stephen King, the undisputed master of horror who had already created cultural phenomena like Carrie, The Shining, and It, made a decision that would seem absolutely insane by today's Hollywood standards. He sold the film rights to his novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption to a virtually unknown director named Frank Darabont for exactly $1. This wasn't charity, it was part of King's Dollar Baby program, where he offered cheap rights to promising new filmmakers. But the story gets even more incredible. When Darabont finally had success with the film, he tried to pay King properly with a check for $5,000. But King never cashed it. Instead, he framed the check and mailed it back to Darabont with a note saying the film was payment enough. This single-dollar transaction would eventually create a movie worth hundreds of millions in cultural value. The film's journey from box office disaster to beloved classic happened through the most unexpected route imaginable. Media mogul Ted Turner purchased the television rights to Shawshank for a fraction of their actual value, making it incredibly cheap for his TNT network to broadcast repeatedly. Turner's business decision accidentally created a phenomenon. The movie began airing constantly on cable television, sometimes multiple times per week. Viewers who had never heard of the film suddenly stumbled across it during channel surfing. Word of mouth exploded as people discovered this hidden gem in their living rooms. The constant television presence transformed a theatrical failure into a cultural touchstone, proving that sometimes the most unconventional paths lead to the greatest success. The production itself was a chaotic series of near disasters, equipment failures, and dangerous accidents that almost prevented the film from ever being completed. During what should have been a routine coffee break on what seemed like an ordinary filming day, a catastrophic accident nearly ended everything. A lighting technician had carelessly positioned a hot lamp too close to the plastic sheeting that covered the prison set's windows. Within minutes, the plastic caught fire, and flames began spreading rapidly through the carefully constructed prison interior. Frank Darabont and crew members rushed back from their break to find smoke billowing through their meticulously designed set. They managed to extinguish the blaze just in time, but the incident came terrifyingly close to destroying months of preparation and millions of dollars in construction. Had they been away just a few minutes longer, one of cinema's greatest films might have literally gone up in smoke. Tim Robbins' commitment to authenticity reached levels that would make most actors quit immediately. For the iconic sewer escape sequence, Robbins insisted on crawling through the tunnel himself rather than using a stunt double. The production team created a nauseating mixture of chocolate syrup, sawdust, and water to simulate human waste, but the reality was still utterly revolting. Robbins spent hours crawling through this disgusting concoction, emerging covered head to toe in the foul-smelling mixture. The scene required multiple takes, meaning Robbins had to repeat this ordeal again and again. By the end of filming, he was exhausted, filthy, and completely committed to making the escape feel as real as possible. His dedication created one of cinema's most visceral and memorable sequences, but at a personal cost that few actors would be willing to pay. Morgan Freeman's dedication during the prison yard baseball scene created an injury that lasted for days. The seemingly simple scene where Red tosses a baseball while talking to Andy turned into an endurance test that pushed Freeman to his physical limits. director Frank Darabont demanded take after take, insisting on capturing the perfect emotional nuance in the conversation. Freeman threw that baseball continuously for 9 grueling hours, never once complaining about the repetitive motion or the strain on his arm. His professionalism was absolute, maintaining the same energy and rhythm shot after shot. When filming wrapped for the day, Freeman's arm was throbbing with pain. The next morning, he arrived on set wearing a sling, his throwing arm too sore to function normally. This behind-the-scenes sacrifice demonstrates the level of commitment that made Shawshank's performances so authentic and powerful. The casting process revealed just how dramatically different this iconic film could have turned out, with major Hollywood stars considering roles that would completely alter the movie's tone and legacy. Tom Cruise, at the absolute height of his career following Top Gun and Mission Impossible success, seriously considered playing Andy Dufresne. He attended table reads and showed genuine interest in the project, but ultimately walked away due to concerns about Frank Darabont's inexperience as a director. Cruise's departure opened the door for Tim Robbins, but it's fascinating to imagine how different the film would have felt with Hollywood's biggest action star in the lead role. The quiet, contemplative nature of Andy's character might have been completely transformed by Cruise's intense energy and star persona. Morgan Freeman's family became part of Shawshank's legacy in ways that most viewers never realize. His son Alfonso Freeman appears twice in the film, playing completely different roles that bookend Red's story. Alfonso provides the voice of the prisoner shouting, fresh fish today, we're reeling them in," as new inmates arrive at Shawshank. But his most clever appearance comes in the form of Red's mugshot photos, where Alfonso's younger face represents Red in his early prison years. This family connection adds an extra layer of authenticity to Freeman's performance, literally showing the passage of time through generational resemblance. The decision to use real ex-convicts as background extras created an atmosphere of authenticity that couldn't be replicated through acting alone. Rather than hiring professional extras, the production team recruited men who had actually served time in various correctional facilities. These former inmates brought genuine prison mannerisms, walking patterns, and behavioral tics that professional actors would struggle to replicate convincingly. Their presence created an underlying tension and realism that permeates every crowd scene. The ex-convicts understood prison hierarchy, social dynamics, and the subtle ways inmates communicate without words. This casting choice transformed background scenes from mere decoration into lived-in environments that feel genuinely dangerous and oppressive. Frank Darabont's perfectionism extended to details so minute that he literally put his own hands into the film. The crucial close-up shots of Andy loading his revolver in the opening sequence weren't performed by Tim Robbins at all. Those are Darabont's hands manipulating the weapon. Similarly, the intimate scene where Andy carves his name into his cell wall features Darabont's hands rather than Robbins'. The director wanted these moments to have specific timing and visual precision that matched his exact vision. Rather than directing Robbins through multiple takes, Darabont simply performed the actions himself, ensuring that every movement was exactly as he had imagined it. The decision to leave the opera scene unsubtitled was a stroke of genius that most directors would never risk. When Andy plays the Marriage of Figaro aria over the prison's loudspeakers, Darabont deliberately chose not to provide English subtitles for the Italian lyrics. His reasoning was brilliantly simple. He wanted the audience to experience the same sense of wonder and mystery that the prisoners felt. Just like the inmates, viewers would be swept away by the beauty of the music without understanding the specific words. This creative choice transforms the scene from a simple plot point into a shared emotional experience between the audience and the characters. Andy's chess set contains a detail so subtle that it's never mentioned in dialogue, yet it perfectly captures his resourcefulness and creativity. The chess pieces that Andy uses throughout his imprisonment weren't purchased or smuggled into the prison. They were carved from prison-issued soap bars. Using basic tools available to any inmate, Andy transformed ordinary bathroom supplies into a fully functional chess set. This detail speaks to his ability to find beauty and intellectual stimulation even within the harsh confines of prison life. The soap chess pieces represent hope and human dignity persisting despite institutional attempts to strip both away. Stephen King's influence on the film extends far beyond the source material, embedded in hidden references that only the most dedicated fans might notice. Red's cell number is 237, which directly references the haunted hotel room from King's novel, The Shining. This Easter egg connects Shawshank to King's broader literary universe, suggesting that all his stories exist within the same dark fictional realm. The reference is subtle enough that casual viewers would never notice, but devoted King fans recognize it as a deliberate nod to the author's most famous work. The "maybe it's because I'm Irish" joke carries deeper meaning that completely changes its impact once you understand the reference. In Stephen King's original novella, Red actually was a white Irish-American character with red hair, hence his nickname. When Frank Darabont cast Morgan Freeman in the role, he deliberately kept this line as an inside joke for readers of the source material. Freeman's delivery makes it seem like casual banter, but it's actually a clever acknowledgement of the character's literary origins and the creative changes made for the film adaptation. Andy's choice to hide his rock hammer inside the Book of Exodus wasn't random. It was brilliantly symbolic foreshadowing that most viewers miss entirely. Exodus tells the biblical story of the Israelites' escape from slavery in Egypt, making it the perfect parallel to Andy's own planned escape from the slavery of wrongful imprisonment. The book literally contains the story of people using faith, patience, and divine guidance to achieve freedom from oppression. By hiding his escape tool within this specific biblical text, Andy unconsciously mirrors the ancient story of liberation that would eventually become his own reality. Red's casual dismissal of Andy's dreams as pipe dreams contains an unintentional double meaning that becomes hilarious in retrospect. When Red calls Andy's escape plans shitty pipe dreams, he's unknowingly predicting the exact method of escape, crawling through an actual sewage pipe. The line works on multiple levels. It shows Red's initial cynicism about Andy's hopes while also literally describing the escape route that Andy would eventually use. This accidental wordplay adds a layer of irony that makes repeat viewings even more rewarding for attentive audiences. One of the film's most quotable lines wasn't part of Stephen King's original story at all. "Get busy living or get busy dying" has become one of cinema's most inspirational quotes, referenced in everything from motivational speeches to graduation ceremonies. Frank Darabont created this line specifically for the film, recognizing that it perfectly captured the story's central theme about choosing hope over despair. The quote has taken on a life beyond the movie, becoming a cultural touchstone for people facing difficult decisions or challenging circumstances. The freezing conditions during Andy's triumphant escape scene created genuine suffering that translated into authentic performance. The rainfall in the sequence wasn't created through movie magic, it was real water sprayed from high-pressure hoses in near-freezing temperatures. Tim Robbins spent hours being drenched by this frigid artificial rain, his body temperature dropping dangerously low as take after take was filmed. The shivering and physical discomfort visible in his performance wasn't acting, it was the real physical response to genuinely harsh conditions. Robbins' commitment to enduring this misery created one of cinema's most powerful moments of liberation and redemption. Even the smallest animal scenes required extraordinary attention to detail and regulatory approval. The scene where Brooks feeds his pet crow Jake required oversight from the American Humane Association to ensure no animals were harmed during filming. The maggot that Jake eats had to be certified as already dead before filming could proceed. This level of bureaucratic involvement in what amounts to a few seconds of screen time demonstrates the incredible complexity involved in creating even the simplest movie moments. Jake the Crow presented unique and unexpected challenges that forced Tim Robbins to become an amateur animal behaviorist and develop completely new acting techniques. Unlike professionally trained animals that respond to specific cues and commands, Jake couldn't be taught when to squawk or remain quiet. Robbins had to spend time observing the bird's natural patterns, learning to predict when Jake was likely to make noise. He memorized the crow's behavioral rhythms and timed his dialogue delivery around the bird's unpredictable vocalizations. This unusual preparation created authentic interactions between actor and animal that feel completely natural on screen. The famous oak tree where Andy buried his message to Red became a real-world pilgrimage site for devoted fans. Located in Mansfield, Ohio, the tree attracted thousands of visitors who wanted to experience a piece of Shawshank's magic. Fans would travel from around the world to stand beneath its branches, often leaving their own messages or tokens of appreciation. The tree's popularity lasted for over 2 decades until 2016, when a lightning strike split it in half, effectively ending its role as a tourist destination. The tree's destruction felt symbolic to many fans, as if nature itself was closing the final chapter on Shawshank's real-world legacy. Despite receiving 7 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Shawshank lost every single category. The film was competing in the same year as Forrest Gump, which dominated the ceremony and took home the major awards. This complete Oscar shutout seems impossible given the film's current reputation, but it perfectly illustrates how awards don't always recognize lasting artistic value. The Academy's oversight has become one of the most famous mistakes in Oscar history, with Shawshank's enduring popularity serving as a constant reminder of the award's limitations. Frank Darabont originally planned to end the film on a much more ambiguous note that would have completely changed its emotional impact. His initial vision concluded with Red riding the bus toward Mexico, leaving Andy's fate entirely unknown. Audiences would never have seen the joyful reunion on the beach, instead wondering whether Red would actually find his friend or if Andy's letter was just another cruel prison joke. Studio pressure and test audience reactions convinced Darabont to add the Zihuatanejo reunion, creating the uplifting conclusion that audiences now consider essential to the story's power. The final mystery that continues to puzzle fans involves the impossible physics of Andy's escape. After crawling through the tunnel, Andy somehow managed to replace the poster covering the hole, fastening it securely on all four corners. This would be physically impossible for someone who had just squeezed through a space barely large enough for a human body. Even the film's director admits this was a movie cheat that prioritized dramatic impact over logical consistency. The impossibility of this detail has sparked countless fan theories attempting to explain how Andy could have accomplished this feat, making it one of cinema's most enduring unsolved puzzles. These 24 incredible secrets reveal that The Shawshank Redemption's remarkable journey from commercial disaster to beloved masterpiece was filled with near catastrophes, brilliant creative improvisations, unexpected challenges, and countless small decisions that would ultimately shape cinematic history forever. Every single aspect of the production, from Stephen King's generous dollar deal to Morgan Freeman's injured arm to the countless near disasters that almost destroyed everything, contributed to creating something that transcends its humble origins and resonates with audiences across generations. The film's current status as the internet's favorite movie of all time and its permanent place in cinematic history proves that sometimes the greatest art emerges from the most unlikely circumstances, overcoming initial rejection and commercial failure through sheer artistic merit. True quality and authentic storytelling eventually find their audience regardless of initial commercial reception or critical oversight, creating legacies that outlast temporary setbacks and industry politics.